TikTok for real estate agents is one of the #1 ways to have a competitive advantage and differentiate yourself from other agents in the marketplace and capitalize on one of the biggest opportunities right now to attract clients and build your personal brand. The problem is that most don't know where to start. So in this video, I'm going to give you a complete blueprint and framework of how you can get started leveraging TikTok. First, I'm going to break down how to establish your foundation, properly understand the platform, and what to do in order to get started. Then I'm going to break down exact proven video topics that you need to be creating as a real estate agent in order to not just build your brand, but most importantly, get clients coming directly to you. And at the end, I'm going to bring it full circle by bringing on one of my top business partners, Noah Ward, who consistently closes $1 million deals every single month by leveraging TikTok, and he's going to explain his exact strategy. So if you want a full crash course on how to leverage TikTok as a real estate agent to get clients and generate consistent leads, this video is going to completely change your business. So without further ado, let's dive in and give you the proven framework for leveraging TikTok as a realtor. Let's talk a little bit about that content that you're putting out, because a lot of the videos that you're putting out have a similar structure and they're really engaging. They suck you in, but they are very market specific. You're not dancing around doing all these trends and making a fool of yourself. Like, you genuinely are providing a ton of value with comparisons and tours and things like that. So based on your experience and looking at, the millions in volume that you're doing every year from TikTok, what are the videos that you recommend people doing in order to, get clients based on what you've been able to get clients with?
Yeah, so over the past 12 months, I actually audited my profile to see. So I went through all the content that I've created in the past 12 months, and I looked at what performed the best and what didn't perform as good, right? So I created a spreadsheet, I numbered it all down, but at the end of the day, what it came out to be was the most successful videos came into 3 different buckets. And it was one, property tours. And I wasn't even in those property tours. It was just me showing the property, but yet I was doing either a voiceover or I just had music overlay, just depending on the specific video. So that was one bucket of content that I've been really focusing on, is just the house tours, because that draws people in because they want to see, what does $500,000 get you in Sarasota? And then I also did the green screen effect, where I was like, the biggest thing for me was I didn't want to travel to all these different places, spend that much time out driving, because here I'd be spending hours and hours a day just driving out to different areas. So I wanted to be a little bit simpler. So I would stay in the office, I would do the green screen effect on TikTok, and then I would knock out 30, 45 videos, whatever that may be, in a day. Then I have a month's worth of content, or maybe if I want to post twice in a day, whatever that may be. But what I found out with the green screen was the videos that helped me do the best for the green screen was like the top 3 attractions in Sarasota, or the top 3 coastal cities in the Southwest Florida, or the Southwest region of Florida, or something in like the top 3 restaurants, top 3 beaches, whatever that may be. So that was another bucket of content that I really was focusing on, right? And then the other one was, I still use, the general green screen effect, but what I did was I did comparisons. So I found that like Sarasota versus Fort Myers, here are the top 3 differences between the two, or Sarasota versus Naples, Sarasota versus Tampa, whatever that may be. Those got very high views. And the reason I think it was because it's very debatable. These topics are very debatable. There's not one right answer, even though I sway more towards Sarasota the whole time. However, it's very debatable. A lot of people are like, oh, well, Tampa's way better than Sarasota. Sure, it's a personal opinion, but it's still something that people get engaged with the content. And I think that's also something that I found very useful, was kind of creating a little controversial topics, something that's not completely a lie, but just make it a little bit controversial so that people start commenting, and then the algorithm picks it up to get more views.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think when there's some sort of bias involved in it, it excites that engagement. And a lot of people are going to make the assumption, well, what if people are complaining or negative comments? It's like, when you look at these platforms, if it gets comments, that's all that matters. Good, bad, or ugly, like, it's going to help your video to get in front of more people, which is going to thus attract more good quality comments and things like that. So I think it's really powerful that you've been able to look at the data to do a lot of the talking for you in the sense of the videos that are working. Now, looking at the process of your videos, I think this is going to be important before we dive into like how you're actually converting and then what it's been able to do to help you and getting some of these partnerships. But looking at your process, what is that like from recording 30 to 45 videos? How often are you posting? Are you using any apps to edit it? Are you doing natively in the platform? And how are you coming up with like the video ideas in itself?
Yep. Yeah. So initially we'll start from the beginning. So how I came up with all the video ideas and stuff like that. So initially when I first got started, I used a lot of like Answer the Public or a lot of these another thing was like going on Google and then typing in like, moving to Sarasota. And then if you type on Google and you scroll down just a little bit, it says frequently asked questions.
Yeah.
And then it comes up and then you click on one and then it gives you like 5 other ones, right? And I kept going down that rabbit hole, was like, all right, so these are all the video topics I'm going to start creating, right? So that basically gave me a lot of the basic content that I wanted. And then, for example, like say they were like, okay, if a frequently asked question was like Sarasota versus Naples, then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to create a video on Sarasota versus Tampa there. And then I just kept going all around the different cities near Sarasota. And I had 5, 7, 10 different videos just from that one little question that was asked, right? So those two things, Answer the Public and Google and those frequently asked questions, that's where I got all my video ideas for the majority part. And then once I had the video ideas written down, everything, then I went through. And then what I did was I keep my videos relatively short, under 30 seconds, and I try to. So what I do is just make 3 major points, right? So I come up with 3 major points of each video, and then I actually list them on a sticky note, for example. So I have 30, 45 different sticky notes of each video topic. And then I go through and write 3 important points for that specific video. Then once I have all that taken care of, then what I'll do is I'll set up all my cameras, set up my my ring light, my audio and everything like that. And then I'll just grab each sticky note, look at what I need to, what video I'm going to be producing. And then from there, then I just batch that content and I sit there for 5, 6 hours, batching out all that content, editing it at the end of the day. Yeah.
Definitely. And are you natively editing it within the platform? Or are you using something like, InShot or CapCut or anything like that?
Yeah, so if I use the green screen effect, I use everything native into the TikTok app, everything like that. All the green screen effects that I use on my profile are all native into TikTok. And then if I'm doing house tours or if I'm going out in Sarasota and checking out some local attractions, whatever that may be, I'm going to edit that in a third-party InShot Pro. And then I'll add my text overlays there. Or after I edit it in InShot, then I will also add that into CapCut to do with the automated captions.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think a lot of people are looking for ways to streamline that, and they kind of assume that you need to hire somebody or pay somebody money to do it. But looking at these apps, it'll basically take care of the majority of the heavy lifting for you. Now, before getting into some of the stuff that you've been able to do with actually converting, because a lot of people are curious, like without a lot of like ease of DMs and things like that on TikTok, a lot of people are curious about the conversion strategy. But one of the things that people are genuinely curious about is, you already alluded to the fact that property tours do very well. And I've seen them, even the first 3 pinned posts on your TikTok profile are property tours with hundreds of thousands of views. And it really is simple in nature because you're just using your iPhone and walking around. However, one of the things a lot of people are curious about is, how do you actually get properties to go film in order to continue to do more volume of property tours?
Right, for sure. So what we do, so here in Sarasota, we're very fortunate that there's a lot of new construction communities going on here in the area. So what I'll do is I'll just go to a new construction community with one of these larger production builders here, and they have 5 or 7 different model houses. So I'll go through and then I will record all 7 of those. That way I have 7 days of content right there. And then I'll go hit up another community, right? However, at the end of the day, those get exhausted. I mean, those basically get exhausted. Those options are done. You only can record those so many times, right? So then it's going to the next step, is actually then going to find other house builders that aren't building in these communities and saying, hey, I see that you built this house on 123 Main Street, or do you have any other houses that you're building, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I'm building this one right now. It's not on the market. I'm like, cool. Do you mind if I take a video of this property that you're doing, or 10 of them that you're building right now? And they're like, yeah, no problem. So then that builds that connection with that builder, and I still go in there, right? Because if I the biggest thing is building relationships, because this is what I found is that, Sarasota, the demographic of agents is relatively older, so they're not as prevalent on video, so they don't understand that, how important camera is, right? So I got a lot of no's at the beginning from a lot of these older listing agents, which is perfectly fine. It was a numbers game at that point. But what I figured out is to create strategic partnerships with other listing agents, have conversations with them, build relationships, so that if not only they have a listing, but their friends in their office also have a listing, then they'll be like, hey, Noah, we have a listing coming up. Do you want to come and shoot that? And I'll say, yeah, I'll come and shoot that, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about building those relationships. If you don't have a lot of builders in your area, it's just building a relationship with one agent to then get a bunch of agents in their office.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I think a lot of people approach the videos in a sense of trying to get these property tours in a very selfish way, which is like they'll reach out to Noah and be like, hey, Noah, can I come record a video in your property? And a lot of times that is perceived as selfish in the sense of course you want to come create a video here. You just want to get content for yourself. But when you can start to build those relationships and explain, hey, all that I'm doing is using my time and my effort to get more exposure on your property, now it becomes this mutually beneficial exchange of value, which is really, really important. I think that's a good segue into how you're actually converting traffic, because I see that you've been able to very strategically, through the evolution of your profile, use different links in your bio, and also the importance of being able to connect Instagram and YouTube and see that you're active across the board and you're not just a one-stop shop or one-trick pony. What does that look like for you, from views to actual conversations and then appointments and then deals?
Right, exactly. So what I've done is, because TikTok, a lot of people still think it's, there's not much business happening on TikTok. It's a dancing app still, which is completely fine by me. But what I've figured out is that, people are going to see you on TikTok, right? My whole thing is cast a huge net with all the videos that I post on TikTok, get a huge net. But then once they come into my ecosystem, they're like, hey, I want to check out if he's legit or not. I have my link to my custom website that I built. And then I also have it linked to my YouTube and my Instagram. So what happens is that I've actually asked my past clients, I'm like, hey, how have you found me? And they're like, well, we went from your TikTok. Then we went to go check out your YouTube because you have that link there. And then we saw all the long form videos you had there. You saw that, you were out in the public, a lot. You seem well versed in the Sarasota real estate market. And then we checked out your Instagram and saw that, you're posting daily on your stories, whatever that may be. And they're like, hey, well, it seems like you're very active in the community and everything, that we wanted to work with you. And that was the common denominator with all the clients that I've worked with, is that's basically how they found me, as TikTok, then to YouTube, and then to Instagram, basically just to verify me, because they're like, okay, he could be fake on TikTok, right? But he can't be fake on YouTube and Instagram all at the same exact time. So that is what I found to be the most helpful, is kind of create a quote unquote funnel for that. But then I also have had my phone number posted in my bio as well. So I get a lot of people that text me and say, hey, I found you on TikTok, or hey, I found you on TikTok, then I looked at your YouTube, whatever that may be. And then we have a conversation from there, because the majority of mine actually come from just, they text me out of the blue. They're like, hey, yeah, I want to talk to you about buying a house, or I want to talk to you about selling my property. And then I ask them about it. And then they're like, well, we found your number on TikTok.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I think that omnipresence is really important to be able to, again, validate what you're doing across multiple mediums, because you are ranking for multiple markets on YouTube as well. And I think that's really cool, because I find TikTok is, more volume play. You've got YouTube, which is very powerful for SEO and ranking. And then you've got Instagram, which is great for kind of like behind the scenes, if you will, of getting people to know like the actual you with your stories and keeping up on a daily basis with that. Before we kind of bring things full circle with mistakes and best practices on TikTok, how are you incorporating YouTube into this mix, in terms of, how often are you posting on TikTok? How often are you posting on YouTube? And is there a connection between the content you're doing on both, or what does that relationship look like between the two platforms?
Yeah, for sure. So TikTok is a very short form platform, 30 seconds or less. TikTok is more longer form, 5 to 11 minutes, somewhere around there is kind of where I keep my videos. And so there is kind of a relation between them. Now, not so much with the green screen, because I don't do the green screen on YouTube. However, when I'm doing property tours, for example, with my iPhone, going to do them for TikTok, I'll also have my other camera that I'll do horizontal content for YouTube at that same exact time. So I'll post a longer form video of a walkthrough of that same exact house that I did on TikTok that was just sped up for 30 seconds, right? So I'll post some of that same content, but at the end of the day, what I also do with my YouTube is basically talk about like, here are the top 3 things when you're looking to buy land in Northport, Florida, which is just south of Sarasota. I'll actually be out in Northport and I'll actually walk through the property to show people. But then on TikTok, I'll just say, here are the top 3 things to watch out for when you're buying land. And I stay in the exact same spot wherever I am. And I just talk about the top 3 topics, right? So a lot of my content is very similar. It's just my YouTube is a lot longer form and my TikTok is a lot shorter form.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And you know, you've obviously thrived and it's been pretty incredible to see some of the other relationships that you've got. So I'd love to quickly just touch on that before kind of bringing it full circle with these mistakes and best practices. But can you talk to people about what this has actually done for your business in terms of the connections that it's allowed you to create, and the price points that you're now able to work with, and the volume of what you're actually doing and developments and all of this incredible stuff?
Right. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing to come out of this TikTok, which I never honestly would have thought in a million years that this would have happened in this short period of time. But what happened was, long story short, was I built up a following on TikTok, hyper local here. And then I had other people reach out to me. They were like, hey, you know, I want to sit down, have a meeting with you and talk with you. So I had other agents reach out to me, talk with me. Then I had other people come out and talk with me as well. And then I also had other connections. They're like, hey, you know, you would be perfect. You should talk to this guy, this so-and-so guy, right? And then that's led to different relationships and relationship building. But after that, showing what I have done on my TikTok, showing how many views I can get, showing the volume that I've done, showing the kind of clientele that I work with, I've had builders actually approach me to work with them. And I've actually partnered with one private builder here, and we created a development company to build custom houses and spec houses for investors. So that's been 8 months in the making, whatever that may be. And we're currently building 2 custom houses right now with our development company. And that's also led to now people are like, hey, we see what you're doing with this builder. You want to come and do it with us, right? So it's a whole big web that's been going on and a lot of connections. And I say that this whole video thing has brought a lot of relationships and not just transactions together, because sure, this one person that reached out to me from TikTok, he may not be a success for me. However, the people that he knows is going to be the success for me. So he introduces me to these hedge fund people that know these hedge fund investors on the East Coast. And then they want to start building houses at scale, 5+ houses a month at scale. And they need a builder and they need someone that's going to sell those houses as well. So being able to partner with a private builder myself, me take care of the sales and the marketing, we kind of create a duo that we offer to these individual either builders or individual investors or individual hedge funds as well. So now that has led to a lot of different stuff. Now we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline in terms of building houses, but I just want to go back and say all this came from video. This didn't come from anything else. It just came through strategically building relationships and business partnerships with people, like creating a video for a local business. And they're like, hey, I want to introduce you to this person, right? So then it all cascades. It's a huge cascading effect. And it's not just about one single transaction. It's about more relationships down the line.
I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that a lot of people don't properly understand. I think it's also a testament to your maturity and your, you know, approach to this whole initiative, which is that a lot of people are looking for that instant gratification. I'm going to do TikTok, and if it doesn't give me a deal within 3 months, then it's not worth it. Whereas your mentality and your approach, which has led to ridiculous success in a short period of time, is I don't care when I'm going to get the deal. I care about the relationships I'm going to build, because over time, if I'm consistent with this, the deals will come. And I think that is a good kind of, you know, bridge to the next thing that is really important is, what are some of the mistakes that you've seen people make when approaching TikTok that are maybe not getting traction or maybe not getting relationships or the expectations that they have in terms of tangible outcomes from their TikTok content?
Right, exactly. So I feel like setting expectations is the biggest thing. You're not going to get a deal within the first 30 days. Now you might, I'm not saying it is, but realistically, it's not. It's all about going to be building out your content and being consistent. And I tell people, because I have agents approach me here locally and say, well, how are you able to grow this following here? Because I can't. And it's like, And I tell them it's one simple thing. It comes down to being consistent, being consistent on a daily basis. I'm posting 1 time a day on TikTok, and I'm posting once a week on YouTube, going to twice a week on YouTube. And it just comes down to that, because I see a lot of agents, they come up to me and they're like, hey, I've been trying TikTok. I've been doing these short form videos for 2 weeks now, and I haven't gotten any traction. Why are you getting traction? And I'm saying, well, because I'm being consistent and I'm doing things in the right order, and I'm not expecting results right away. That's the biggest thing, is when you try to expect results like a month down the road, you're just going to get discouraged, right? So you have to set proper expectations up front. Like, for example, I know TikTok is not going to produce me multi-million-dollar deals every single week. Like, for example, my biggest deal that I did from TikTok was about a $2.25 million house. And that wasn't directly for the buyer. That was the buyer's manager that found me on TikTok. Now we're going to be listing his house for $3.5 million here in about March. And so that came from TikTok, but setting the proper expectations, I think, is honestly the biggest thing. And the biggest mistakes that I made were expecting everything in return right away, right? And I initially, at a younger age, I was like, well, I should just be able to get all these deals because I'm putting out all this content. I deserve this, right? It's like, I deserve this because I'm doing this much work. But at the end of the day, it's the quality of content that you put out. And what I did was I took every video that I did was a building experience. So I took comments that people were like, hey, they commented something, so I improved on it, or I create a video around this. And after 12 months coming full circle, this is when I become dialed in for what my audience is exactly looking for and what I'm going to create in terms of what kind of camera I'm using and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, the biggest mistake that people can do is not being consistent on a daily basis, and then also just setting improper expectations.
Completely. And I think, one of the things that I love, and I can see this is so clearly, and it really reminds me of my own journey, which is that, just from the beginning of your TikTok journey to where you're at now, you can see how much you've grown in terms of your communication skills, your delivery, your confidence, your ability to articulate messages, and all of these kind of incredibly beneficial, tangible things that might not be tangible in the immediate in terms of direct income in your bank account, but what that yields long-term in terms of your ability to interact, convert, negotiate, and drive traffic is worth its weight in gold. Like, that's a multi-million-dollar a year skill set to have that has probably come from the frequency of videos. And I think that's almost an accelerated path, because for me to do, I've done about 400 videos on my YouTube channel, but that's been 5 years. You've done way more than that in a fraction of the time because of the cadence of TikTok. And I think that's a really cool thing, knowing that communication is the #1 skill in real estate. You have accelerated the growth of that skill set, like at an exponential pace.
Exactly. And, in the past year, I know that my speaking has grown quite a bit. And the biggest thing is my confidence has come up, because the biggest thing is, being 19 years old, getting into real estate, I didn't know a lot of stuff, right? So I had a lot of doubts in myself, had a lot of second doubts when people would ask me a question, I didn't quite know it. However, creating these videos and creating videos on a daily basis provides me more education. I look at it as every video I do is educational, not only for my audience, but also for me, because I actually learn something every time I do a video, whether that be how I speak, how I present stuff, how confident I am, or even just the information that comes out of the video. Like, I've gained so much knowledge in the building aspect when I start diving into it and creating videos on each individual aspect of the building process. Now I can easily articulate to a customer each step of the building process. And they're like, you're only 22 years old now. And I'm so surprised, because a lot of builders don't even know, they can't properly articulate. Sure, they can build an amazing house, but at the end of the day, they can't properly articulate what we want to do and how the building process is. So at the end of the day, we're not going to go with him as a builder, Yeah.
For sure. And, kind of pulling things full circle, like there's going to be many people, not just somebody, but many people that watch this video and they're saying, okay, time to get out of my own head, time to take action on TikTok. And this is going to be my year where I'm actually going to start to be consistent with it. So video number 1 is going to be property tours. This is going to be an obvious one, and a couple of the others you might not be expecting, but property tours absolutely crush it. And the best part is it's very easy. You can be doing these videos whenever you're previewing a listing, whenever you're just about to list it, and your videographers or you're going through and doing a full-length YouTube video. You could do this when you're previewing properties with buyers. You can even just go ask agents with really nice listings if you can go do this, or new model home tours, things like that. But property tours work incredibly well. They get incredible engagement, and the best part is they're super easy. So let's show you a great example of a property tour of what you can do. And one of the things you want to make sure that you're doing with these property tours is overlaying a trending song. Okay, video number 2 is going to be community and market comparisons. This has been working incredibly well for one of the younger agents in my organization, and based on these videos that are getting over 100,000 views, he's now been able to establish partnerships with local developers, where now he's got like a $14 million land development deal because of these videos. And this is a really incredible way to showcase why your market is better than other markets, or why certain communities are, maybe more preferable in your opinion than others, and the benefits and pros and cons that go along with each. So let's show you an example of this, because it's a really easy one. It's going to demonstrate your market knowledge, and also it's going to make sure that you can control the narrative in order to showcase and highlight where you want to either farm or work, or what your specialty niche is.
So what is the main difference between Sarasota and Fort Myers? Let's go and explore both the pros and cons of both cities. First, if we're talking about outdoor activities, Sarasota clearly blows Fort Myers out of the water when it comes to this. Just one example is that Sarasota has this 12+ mile paved trail called the Legacy Trail. If your focus is on schools, Sarasota also outranks Fort Myers by far. They are ranked number 2 in the entire state. Comparing downtown, so downtown Fort Myers seems to have gotten a little bit more rundown over the years. Downtown Sarasota is actually still pretty good, with really nice restaurants and shops, and then also walking distance to Bayfront Park. Lastly, comparing beaches, nothing is going to compare to Siesta Key Beach. Fort Myers beaches are okay, but they're not the greatest.
Number 3 is going to be relocation videos. And these are not just videos about relocating, but more so videos that are going to be tailored towards relocation buyers. And what I mean by that is it's not just a video on TikTok talking about, hey, if you're looking to move to here, here's what you need to know. But rather, it could be things like 5 things you need to know if you're moving to Florida. It could also be things like pros and cons of living in Florida, cost of living in Florida, all of these things that relocation buyers would be looking into and concerned about. It's a great way to highlight this. So let's show you an example of this, because this is one that's very easy. And also the best part is you can just use the bullet points from your YouTube video that you'd be creating on this topic in longer form with more context, and just use it in order to create the outline for your short form video, crush it out, and now you've got both.
Here's 3 things you need to know before moving to Florida. And stick around to the end and I'll give you a bonus tip. But number 1 is cost of living. Florida's cost of living ranges about in the national average, plus or minus a couple of points, but definitely cheaper than most northeastern states. Also, Florida has no state income tax, which is a big draw for people moving down here from the north. Number 2 is, of course, the weather. We all know it's hot here in Florida in the summertime, but that's not why people come. People come for the wintertime weather. The average wintertime temperature here in Florida is about 76 degrees. Right now, to the end of March, it's about 79. It's beautiful. So this is a big reason people come here. Number 3, there's a big difference between North Florida and South Florida. The temperatures differ, the atmosphere and the culture differs. So make sure you know the difference. And bonus tip is the golf. With year-round playable weather and 1,400 courses throughout the state, this is a golfer's destination. Click the plus sign. We'll see you next time.
Number 4 is going to be top lists of something. And what I mean by this is could be best beaches or top 5 beaches in your market, top 5 places to watch the sunset if you're living in Hawaii or something like that, or best restaurants, best pizza spots, best ice cream stops, whatever you want to talk about related to your market that people would be searching for, looking at top restaurants. And again, all of these things that people either A, visiting there and potentially consider moving there would be interested in, or B, people that actually already live there and are just looking looking to go do something new on the weekend, on the evening, or on a holiday. So these videos, again, are incredibly easy. It's a great opportunity to highlight trending businesses and kind of lean into that. And also, one of the cool things is that oftentimes if you take this video, repurpose it for Instagram Reels and tag that business, then I've seen multiple situations where that business will actually share your Instagram Reel, even though it started on TikTok, and now you're gonna get in front of a brand new audience, in front of thousands of people that are following that business. So let's show you a quick example of this so that you have a really clear understanding of what you can do to highlight some of the features and unique amenities and benefits of your local market.
Let's go and explore the top 3 restaurants on Siesta Key. Let's go. Coming in at number 3, we have Spearfish Grill. It's right when you enter onto Siesta Key. When you come to Spearfish Grill, I highly recommend that you get the fish tacos with the fish of the day, but honestly, you can't go wrong with anything on the menu. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Star Thai and Sushi, walking distance to the beach. When you come to Star Thai, I highly recommend you get the Volcano Lava Sushi Roll. It's amazing. Coming in at number 1, we have the amazing Summer House Steak and Seafood. When you go eat at the Summer House, highly recommend the lobster tail. It is to die for. Now comment below, what is your go-to seafood order at a restaurant?
And number 5, bringing it full circle, is going to be lifestyle. And this is really important because at the end of the day, even though we're all realtors, even though we're helping people sell homes, people don't just want to see all homes. People want to get to know you, what makes you different, because at the end of the day, people are working with you, not a home. So you really want to showcase to people, what are your passions? What are your hobbies? What is your lifestyle like? What makes you different? And give people an opportunity to get to know the real you in a very transparent and authentic way. Because at the end of the day, the goal on social media is to get people to like, know, and trust you. And if you can get people to do that, that's ultimately going to separate you from the other agents that don't really have that intimacy that buyers and sellers are looking for, because they want to work with somebody that they would enjoy actually spending time with. So let me show you an example from my own profile about this, talking about when I took my dad out for a drive in my Lamborghini. This is a video that shows people that I'm very focused on my family, that cars are my passion, that I love getting out to the mountains, and it's a video that performed really well on my own TikTok profile. So let me show you this video and then we'll wrap it up. Today I'm taking my dad on the prettiest drive in Canada in my Lamborghini. Okay, so bringing it full circle, those are 5 examples showing you exact videos that agents have put out that have been able to attract clients or scale their personal brand and their following. And again, the goal is ultimately with these videos to drive traffic to a couple different places. Number 1, your bio link. And with the bio link, I recommend using something like Linktree, because you can include relocation guides, community guides, buyers, sellers guides, investors guides, free booking a call with you, or free home consultations, things like that. And strategically leveraging the massive organic engagement that TikTok is allowing agents to get by driving traffic to something that is going to allow you to convert. And the second place you want to be driving traffic to is your Instagram and your YouTube channel. And the reason being is because you can connect both. And usually most agents are a little bit more active on both of those platforms, so you can funnel traffic to other platforms that you're active on and cross promote your audience to scale all 3 of them. A lot of real estate agents are overlooking TikTok, thinking that because of the average age demographic of being younger, I believe the average age is about 17 or 18 on TikTok, a lot of people are saying that, well, it's not relevant to real estate, I'm not going to generate any business for it. But what I want to do in this video is explain to you 5 reasons why every real estate agent needs to be on TikTok and the incredible importance of understanding this platform in 2020. Let's get straight into it, break it down for you, and explain the 5 reasons why you need to be diving into TikTok. Alright guys, so welcome back, and I'm excited to break these down for you because I continuously see people talking about TikTok, but a lot of agents are avoiding it. I've broken this down for my mastermind group, the Social Strategy Mastermind. If you want to know more about that, just click the pinned link in the description and the comment. But I've also recently been featured on Houston Agent Magazine, Boston Agent Magazine, as well as across the entire brokerage, about my article that I was featured on about TikTok and how I leverage TikTok in order to get a lot of views and also drive traffic to other platforms. So let me break this down for you and explain why you need to be looking into it. The first thing is, let's say that the average demographic is 17 or 18. Well, a lot of people start buying their first property around the age of 23, 24. So eventually these people will become buyers and sellers. And if you become active on a very relevant social media platform early on, you have an incredible opportunity to build a true connection with these people over time, so that when it gets to the point of them actually having to buy their first property, who do you think they're going to go to? They're likely going to be going to the agent that they've built up some sort of connection with. And because there's not many agents going on this platform, if you're the one in the market that they've built up some familiarity with and you're starting to put out some unique content, this is going to be a great way for you to separate yourself from the other agents that they never would have even heard of before. Now, the second one is actually even more important, and this is understanding that all of these kids have parents and grandparents. What does that mean? Even though they might be 17 or 18 years old, they are going to have parents that are late 40s, 50s, 60s, grandparents that are in their 60s or 70s. These are all people that could be buying a house, selling a house, investing in real estate. So let's take a step back for a second and think about this. If I was a parent and I had a kid that was on TikTok, if I was going to sell our house, I would probably say, let's say my kid's name is Sophie. I might say, hey Sophie, we're thinking about selling our house this year. And don't you think if Sophie knew of a real estate agent that she loved on TikTok, she would say, hey mom and dad, or hey Mike, I actually follow this real estate agent that's here locally in our market and he's doing some really cool stuff. I think you should check him out. That does happen. It has happened. I know agents specifically that this has actually happened to over the last few months. All of these people have parents and grandparents that are in the age and could be in the market to buy, sell, or invest. And this is a great way to build up a connection with somebody that has a lot of pull power over them, especially when they're looking for referrals, as well as some advice on who they might know in order to help buy or sell or invest in real estate. Number 3, this is an incredible differentiator from other real estate agents. A lot of real estate agents, albeit not properly, are leveraging Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and some are on YouTube, but there's very few that are on TikTok. So there's no agent that I can even think of, and this is the space that I spend all of my time in every single day, is a social media space because of my company, High Converting Content. But there's not one single agent I can think about right now that's actively crushing it on TikTok. But if you think about Instagram or YouTube, you're going to think of like Ryan Serhant or Josh Altman or any of these agents. There's none that are crushing it on TikTok. So what happens if you happen to just be the one that decides to become actively present and consistent on this very relevant, exponentially growing company and platform, and you happen to be the agent that becomes the TikTok agent? That would be absolutely incredible, and it could do wonders for your business. And I don't know why a lot of more people aren't thinking about this. I personally am going to be diving a lot more into TikTok in the coming months, especially this week. So I think if you want to take note of my channel and use that as reference, feel free to do so. But this is something that's really going to help separate you from the other agents because none of them are actually using it. Now, number 4 is understanding from an entrepreneur's perspective how to leverage relevant platforms. This is one that I can't stress enough. We all know Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We all missed the boat on getting in on these early, but here's what you need to understand is that every so often, a new trending, very relevant, very powerful social media platform comes out. First it was Facebook, then it was YouTube, then it was Instagram, then it was LinkedIn. And every so often, one new one pops up that actually does take off and becomes very normal for people to use. Now, TikTok is the latest one. So what I want you to understand is take a step back and understand from a realtor's or an entrepreneur's perspective that as an entrepreneur and a business owner, we need to take it upon ourselves to learn how to use new technology so that we can remain relevant. A lot of people miss the boat being early on these platforms. This is the first platform we have an opportunity to be early on during its growing phase and leverage that, because right now TikTok only has one normal feature, which is posting its short form videos. Now they have recently introduced live videos, which you can monetize. They've recently introduced advertising, and they're going to start competing against platforms like Instagram, which is owned by Facebook, as well as likely YouTube, owned by Google. So it's going to be releasing new features. And if you're early on those, you can reap the benefits of those more than other people. And I think as entrepreneurs, we need to take a step back and say, how can we tap into something that's new, something that's relevant? Because in 2 to 3 years, there's going to be a new platform, and we need to squeeze the juice out of every platform every time it becomes relevant and it comes out, because This is our business. We need to learn how to connect with audiences. We are in the business of connecting and working with people and building relationships. And if you're turning a blind eye to a platform just because you don't like it, I can tell you right now that in the future, you're going to struggle big time. I don't like TikTok, I don't enjoy it, but I understand that it's relevant, so I'm going to be actively using it. I've got other videos that explain how to use it. I can link it in the card above. But again, this is super important for you to understand that this is our business. We are in the business of learning new strategies on a consistent basis in ways that is going to allow you to connect with new people that never have heard of us before. Now, the fifth one, I'm gonna break this into two, so I guess this is gonna be 6. It's a little extra tip. First thing is you can connect it to Instagram and YouTube, which is super powerful. So if you start to post videos on TikTok, you can drive traffic to the platforms that do have buyers and sellers on it, like Instagram, like YouTube, and you can also use it to cross promote so you can grow your audiences across other platforms. But the other one that I really wanted to say is it's a great platform for expressing your creativity. I find a lot of agents have this stigma or feel like they need to be this buttoned up perfectionist on these other platforms because the average age is their age. So they feel like they need to put on this presence that relates to those people because it's their peers. But what I find is a lot of people using TikTok have the ability to express themselves freely because the average age is young. It's a very carefree platform, and you don't have to really care if you're being silly, if you're being stupid, whatever you're being on there, just be yourself. And I find a lot of people that I talk to in real estate are very creative, fun, outgoing people. But when you look at their content on other platforms, they're actually quite boring and very stiff and feel like they have to be so professional, but that's not who they truly are. And I find a lot of people that are deciding to go on TikTok feel this sense of liberation because they can actually be themselves without having to care about feedback or backlash or people saying different stuff that they weren't expecting. So I think it's a great platform. TikTok for real estate is exceptionally important right now, and the earlier you get on, the better you're going to see growth and opportunity to scale. So again, think about it from these perspectives. These 5 things should help you understand the platform better. And don't just think about it as 17 or 18-year-olds. Think about it as something that people have parents and grandparents that could be in your market. And also you need to understand and come to grips with the fact that we are entrepreneurs. We need to become very familiar with relevant social media platforms because that's going to be the way of the future. And if you decide to turn a blind eye for it, you're going to fall behind.
And one of the things too that I think is important to consider, and this is something that not many agents really think about, and maybe you have, but you know, if I'll pull up an example here, but when you look at like a guy in our group, Noah Ward, with TikTok, where he gets, you know, multi-million-dollar deals in Florida with his TikTok videos, is, you know, everybody creates content solely for their immediate market center. But when you start looking at it, that's leaving a lot of money on the table for the fact that you can do, you know, referrals in San Diego. You can do referrals in, you know, Santa Monica. You can do all these different referrals. So one of the things that you'll see is that Noah's built up a substantial business by doing different lists related to the state level and talking about certain things at the state level. And then obviously, like if you look at one of these things that we'll talk about here, if we look at Noah's, you know, TikTok profile, and you look at some of these videos that perform very well, you know, top 3 coastal cities in Florida doing the typical green screen. Number one, when you do the green screen, the lighting is almost irrelevant, which is making it easier for you to create more content. But simultaneously, you could cater this to your market. So for example, in this one video, he's talking about 3 different market centers, Key West being the first one, and then whatever the next one is, Siesta Key, and then the last one will be his market center. So when you start looking at this, what it allows you to do is you're able to say, hey, here's a list of the best cities in California. Here's a list of the best food or the best beaches or the best this and culture and that. And what it allows you to do is then almost tailor it by design to making San Francisco or your specific market center the best place. But it doesn't leave other opportunities out on the table where if somebody's saying, hey, I like the idea of that, but this other place is maybe a better fit for me. Well, now you have a referral deal. It's the easiest 25% commission you ever make because you fire a text to an agent and you just got paid. So that's one of the things that, again, starts to give that broader approach to go for the following and the growth, because the bigger the exposure, the more opportunity of you becoming top of mind. So when you start creating, again, doing your content for the specific market is great, but also sprinkling in some content that's going to be California specific, then that's going to allow you to attract a bigger pool of people. And then you can educate them about your specific market as time goes on. So a lot of Noah's highest performing videos are all those kind of green screens where he's got some that have, you know, millions of views, which is crazy. And a lot of them are exactly that, just talking about different, you know, amenities, different kind of things to do when you're visiting, and all of those kind of like general public style content. And also market comparisons, like San Diego versus San Francisco versus one more, talking about which one's better. His number one performing video is one market versus his. And all that it is talking about which one has the best downtown, which one has the best nightlife, which one has the best beaches, which one has the best food. And you could basically tailor it to your market being the best, meaning people might want to reach out to you about learning more about your market. So that's just another thing, is you can go not only you know, generic in terms of the public shareable information, but you can also make it real estate related at the state level, which is going to, again, attract people looking to move to California in general. And then you could start to build up this referral business, which is going to be huge as the market continues to shift.
Super smart. Hadn't thought of that. And it just makes it a lot, kind of expands the universe of potentially like relevant content you can make as well. Because once you talk about the beaches in San Francisco, you've talked about the beaches in San Francisco. So it's a good way to kind of put new spins on sort of the same thing. So that's helpful. When you're doing that, something like that, where I'm comparing, let's say, Los Angeles to San Francisco to whatever, are you geotagging California? Are you geotagging anything? Are you geotagging San Francisco? What are you doing?
Not usually. Like it's almost to the point now where like the shareability of it is what's going to do the geotagging for you, because ultimately like a lot of that content gets shared with people in New York, in Arizona, in Texas, in all these other places that you never even would have thought people are relocating from. But people are going to, again, start to take note of it. So I think it's less kind of important to really dive into that geotagging, and more important to look at some of these other opportunities of just creating the content. Again, you could see, you know, a lot of this content just talking about the different cities and the impacts of like different things. Like, you know, for example, like this video did really well. That's almost like highlighting the floods that were happening in like Santa Cruz not too long ago, right? And that's one of the things that you could start to look at, is just showcasing like the most underrated city in, you know, California, things like that. So there's so much content that you could start to do that can give you that exposure. New laws, right? This is another one that does well, because what happens, and this is kind of the last piece of content that nobody really thinks about, that you could really talk about. Two things. Number one, this basically relates to what you do. 165,000 views. Brand new master plan community. So when a new community, a new development is happening in your market center, if that's a thing, well, now everybody's going to be sharing that because they want to know more about what's upcoming. So everybody locally starts to share it with their friends of, oh, I didn't know this was being developed. I didn't know this was happening or was in the plans. So that does really well. But this is another one. And this is one of the things that Noah does best with. You can see here is a new law related to sound. So what happens is when you start to share new things that happen in California, especially California being a very politically torn area, is there's controversy, and you're going to get lit up in the comments. There's going to be good, there's going to be bad, but it creates massive engagement. So when there's a new law, when there's something new that gets imposed on the state level, talking about that and putting just your 2 cents about your opinion on it and letting people talk about it themselves. And that's really great content that starts to really create that engagement and that back and forth, because again, it's very shareable, and everybody's going to have their own polarizing opinions on that new law, which gets people talking. And when you get people talking, they come back and get driven towards you.
Totally. No, that's great. Super helpful. And I certainly keep up on that stuff. So may as well turn that into content. I never thought people would want to hear that, but it makes total sense, especially if you break it down, because it does impact them at the end of the day.